Hi everyone, I'm Tock Custom, and on this video we're going to show you how to make your very own custom candle box or similar box using the XTOOL P2 Laser Cutter. Now, besides your laser cutter, this is everything you'll need to make one of these candle boxes. So I started with a 3mm sheet of basswood. This is 12 by 12 inches, and this sheet alone can make one candle box, which is great. Some other things that you'll need are a candle, some calipers, rubber bands, and wood glue for when you're joining it. And then I've got a chip brush and some water-based wood stain if you want your box to have a nice dark finish like this. Just make sure that you stain your sheet of wood before you cut it. Now that we have all our supplies ready, it's time to design the box that we're going to make. So for this video, I'm going to use a website called makercase.com, which is very easy to use, and I really like the interface. So we're going to do a polygon box because I would like to do a 6-sided box. So I'm going to change this to 6 sides here. And I'm going to change this to millimeters because that's how the XTOOL software reads. Now, our box is 4 inches tall by 4 inches diameter. So my inside dimensions is what we're going to go with. And I'm going to change this to 100 millimeters by 100 millimeters, which is about 4 by 4 inches. And for the material thickness, it says it's 3mm when I buy it, but it's actually more like 2.8 millimeters. And this does matter because if you do something too thick, the teeth won't really fit together very well on the finger joints. So speaking of which, we're going to change this from flat to finger joints so it looks like that. And I want to do this really similar to the other ones I made. So I'm going to make the fingers a little bit bigger until it's about right there. That looks a little bit better, but feel free to play around and do whatever you want. And some people might want an open box, so you just click open here, and then you don't have a lid. I do like it with a lid, even though when you're burning a candle, you shouldn't have a lid on there, but whatever. I think it looks better. So anyway, that's all there is to it. This is all of the dimensions I need, and now I just hit download plans here. And it'll give me a rendering of how all of the shapes are going to look, and I just want to download this as an SVG file, which is a vector graphic. So now that that is downloaded, we can drop this into the XTOOL software and kind of play around with it there. All right, so here we are in the XTOOL Creative Space software, and I've already put a board in there so that we can start plotting out our box. The first thing I want to do is set our material, which is 3mm basswood, and hopefully my head isn't blocking that. Anyway, the next thing is we are going to drag and drop in the schematics of the box that we just make. It should be in your download folder. Now, I will delete all the text because I don't want that engraved onto our wood here. And if you just want to make a box with no details, you can just make this all fit on here. They'll all fit and hit cut and have a box and it'll be done, which is great. But I want to do a bunch of cool detail stuff with negative space on mine. So I'll show you how I do that. So I'm going to delete one of our tops and then all of our side panels except for one, because we're going to add our details and then copy paste them so they're all totally identical, if that makes sense. All the side panels are the same and the top and bottom are the same. So I'm going to click on capture close view up here, and I want to just get an idea of exactly where that top left corner of the wood is so that this is a perfect fit, and that should be fine like that. Then I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom left corner so we can fit this panel in here. Okay. Perfect. So now I want to cut out some negative space so that if I put a candle in it, it shines out, or maybe you're going to put LED lights in yours. And I've already created graphics for the last ones I made. I'm not going to do a full demonstration on how to make custom vector graphics for Laser Cutter. If you want me to do that, please let me know, because I think that would be a great video and great knowledge to have. But just for the sake of keeping this brief, I'm just going to load in what I've made and show you how it works once it's here. Actually, so this panel here is for the top and bottom, and I want to make sure this is changed from, oops, my head is in the way, from score here to cut, and it will tell the machine to cut that out. And then for the side panels, these we can scale up and down because that won't change the proportions of the box at all. So just something centered, and I don't want it to be too close to the edges so that it's not too delicate. And then once again, I'm going to click this and I'm going to change it from score to cut like that. Okay, and everything should be good. Now, all I have to do is I'm going to select both these and select group. Now I can copy this and paste it, and then I've got an exact duplicate of our top and bottom, which is great. And now we need 6 of these side panels. So select both, group, Control C, Control V, and then I'm just gonna paste this 5 more times. And I think I did this before, so I can fit 4 in a row like that, and then 2 that are at a 90-degree angle. Then I'll just copy this one, paste it, and that should be good. Before I send this to cut, I like to do the close view and capture all the corners, just to make sure it's gonna fit in there. I'm certain it's all gonna fit, but it's a good habit to be in so you don't waste a whole piece of wood. So that's perfect there, and I know in the reference it doesn't look like the top of the wood is actually tall enough, but when I do the close view, it definitely is. So now that everything fits, I'm gonna select everything and I'm going to group it, and then I'm gonna ungroup it, and I'll explain why I do that. I wanna go through and click on each individual piece and make sure that everything is set to cut over here on the right. So that says cut, that says score, so I think I forgot to change my red lines from score to cut. So anyway, I'm gonna take a second and make sure everything is set to cut. I'm glad I checked this, otherwise I would have had to reshoot a bunch of stuff. So anyway, that's a good habit to be into, to make sure everything is set to the correct processing type here. I think that is good. Sorry, I don't know why I'm still ducking, but okay, this is good. Everything is set to cut now. Anyway, when you're ready, oh, let me make myself invisible for a second. So in the bottom right where I was, there's this big green process button. And when I click that, it should show you, might be hard to see it, all of the line work that is going to be sent to the machine. When I hit start, it's going to send the file to the machine. And now I can go into my shop and hit the big button, and it's going to start cutting everything out. All right, so here we are at the P2 machine, and I forgot to put our little placeholder clips on the wood. So without moving it, I'm going to put our clips on here because this board is not perfectly flat, and I want to make sure this doesn't move at all while we are cutting. So these things are great. They just clip right onto these nice little beams here, and then this will not move around at all. So anyway, that should be good like that, and now we can close the door, and then I think just hit the button and this is gonna go. All right, so I'm gonna tell it to go, and this should not take very long at all. All right, so that is all done. Let's see how this turned out. So I'm gonna take off my clips first. Perfect, so that all came out. And now if some of the negative space doesn't fall, I just kind of drop it on the plate a couple of times and it should all just fall right through. All right, this is all done. So I'm gonna take this to our table and we're gonna get ready to assemble this. All right, so we're all set to assemble and glue our box together. I'm gonna flip one of these upside down, and that's gonna be my bottom because it's got some burns on it. And that will be our top. All you're gonna need is some wood glue, and I use rubber bands. I tried this with clamps and it just didn't work, so. Anyway, now I'm just gonna start by putting a drop of glue on every single one of these tabs of the bottom first. I'm usually not even super clean with this because wood glue dries clear and it's all on the inside. But I'd rather have a nice tight fit than have it fall apart. So that is fine. Hopefully you can see that. That's plenty. And now I'm just gonna start with 2 of my side panels. It doesn't matter which way they go as long as they all go the same direction, kind of like that. So kind of the same thing here. I put glue on the 3 prongs on the, on the right side, kind of like that. And I'm gonna do that on just 2 of the panels at first, because it's nice to have 2 for this to kind of stand up on its own. So I'm gonna have my bottom here, and then I'm gonna set one of those in there like that, and then one of these in the next slot. And the glue from the tabs of the bottoms and the tabs on the inside will end up getting between those nooks, and everything should be fine. Now, while that's kind of dripping quickly, I'm gonna try to keep getting glue on all my tabs And I will wipe some of this away if it's a little too drippy, which it is definitely doing right now. But I just want to keep this going so it doesn't fall apart. And wood glue does dry fairly quickly, so you shouldn't have to let this set for too long before you can enjoy your new candle box. All right, now I'm just going to glue the rest of our 3 pieces here, kind of like that. I'm not really sure if this glue is showing up on camera or not, but it's definitely there. First couple of times I did this, it was a little tricky to get the tabs to set in there, but what I found is easiest is if I kind of set the bottom tab in the base and then fold it up, things usually kind of snap into place pretty well. Oops, I lost one here. All right, and we got our last piece here, so I'm going to set the bottom in place and fold it up. All right, now while the bottom and the sides are all kind of drying, the best thing I've found to keep these together is just rubber bands. And you get nice even pressure, but wood clamps are just too awkward and you can actually break your box with them pretty easily. So I just try to put one of these around where all the teeth are on the box. And any glue that might be dripping on the inside is actually kind of a good thing because it's kind of just getting more adhesive on the areas that I might have missed. But while that is doing that, anything that is dripping on the outside, like here, you can either just smooth out with your finger, and this does dry clear, or you can use a brush. I'm actually just gonna do this with my finger. So all the way around the bottom first. I wanna make sure there's none on the bottom so it doesn't stick to the table. And then anything between these hinges right here that's sticking out, I'll try to smooth that down so it doesn't leave little clumps of glue. But yeah, if you're at this point, the hard part is over. Yeah, that looks great. And then the last thing I do while this is still drying is I will put the top lid on just to help it dry perfectly straight. But make sure you don't put any glue here because you need to be able to get the lid off later for your candle. All right, so the top is perfectly nested in the rest of the box. And I think something I did last time was take a couple of rubber bands and put them around the top just so that I got some extra pressure on our bottom plate here. Anyway, I'm just gonna let this sit for, I don't know, 20 minutes or an hour or whatever, and this should be nice and solid like that. Again, if you pre-stain your wood before you cut it, you'll end up getting some really cool colors, or you can airbrush this, but definitely don't brush paint this after it's done with negative space, or you're gonna get all kinds of drips and stuff like that. So either paint it beforehand or use an airbrush or something like that, and you'll end up with a box like this, and the top comes off. And this is, again, a 4-inch candle that, if I put this in here, fits perfectly. And then when I light this, it will glow out of all of these little shapes here. Just make sure when this is lit, you don't put a lid on it because that will burn and it will start on fire, and that's not good. So anyway, I'm really happy with how these turned out, and hopefully this helped you either make a candle box or something very similar. All right, everyone, we are all set. So hopefully this helped you with your project or gave you some other ideas. Big thanks to XTOOL for sponsoring this video and sending me this awesome new P2 laser cutter. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in our next video.